Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to 22 Panels. My guest tonight is Herb Block winning political cartoonist Jen Sorensen. Hi, Jen. How are
Hey
you?
there. I'm all right. Thanks so much for having me.
What a time to be a political cartoonist.
Oh, it just gets worse and worse.
Uh,
Yeah, it's been pretty stressful.
yeah, no, I remember an interview that Jon Stewart did with somebody that I'm not going to name because he wound up being a massively bad actor. um, Way back in the Bush years, where he was asked, "So who are you going for in this election?" And he said, "Well, personally or professionally?" And the interviewer's like, "There's a difference." He's like, "Well, yeah. I mean, Bush writes the jokes himself,
Mm, hmm.
but obviously, as American, I would much prefer to have John Kerry."
Right,
um,
right.
I feel like we've moved way past that at this point. Yes, the jokes might write themselves sometimes, but they also feel like they're half funny and half make you want to cry. Um, so I guess my first question, because you still manage to have a sense of humor in your work, um, even while being very serious about a very serious time. What is what's it like to have to try to take this stuff that I know for me makes me want to pull my hair out, um, and express it, but still be funny?
Yeah, I would say maintaining a sense of humor about all of this has gotten harder and harder. Um, you
Yeah.
know, I got my start during the Bush years, and those years were terrible. I mean, they really were truly terrible, and I
Right.
think a lot of people have forgotten how bad they were. But
Well, I mean, yeah.
but we have reached the point now where it's just so the news is so chilling
Right.
that I mean, I do find it difficult many weeks to actually bring a sense of levity to the strip. And
Right.
I certainly do not. I think that would just it would be even worse under a second Trump administration.
Oh my
And
God.
as a humorist, I would I'm not in favor in any way of a second Trump term.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about it today as I was talking to students and or overhearing their conversations, and just enough of them that thankfully aren't old enough to vote yet, and therefore I can forgive them a little bit. We're sitting there going, they're both horrible. And I'm sitting there going, no, 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 no. I mean, first of all, one of them is actually ridiculously qualified, but there's a difference between don't like them and horrible. You know, we just talked about the Bush years being terrible, and they were truly terrible. The number of horrible things that happened in the Bush years we've forgotten because now we've been through 4 years that weren't just terrible, they were terrible and exponentially better than they could have been. Be, because the actor was Bush at least had some sense of propriety, some sense of like this job is important. I didn't agree with pretty much any decision he made, but it didn't really worry that he was going to turn the troops on American citizens.
Right. I mean, I
You
didn't
know?
I didn't really worry about myself as a political cartoonist or about
Right,
protesters, although they were, I mean, they were doing terrible things to protesters. Even, I think it was in 2004 that they kettled a bunch of people in New
yeah,
York City at the RNC. So, I
right,
mean, there were always issues, but there certainly wasn't the existential fear
right.
that there is now. Now, I mean, the Iraq War was just, I mean, I remember that was excruciating to be cartooning during
I,
that
I,
time.
I, I mean, I still remember. There's never been a moment where I wished I wasn't. I remember being. I was working overnights in 2001, and we were having breakfast on the morning of September 11th.
Mm.
when the news started coming in.
Hmm.
And before we even knew it was a terrorist, long before we knew who was involved, I just looked across my table mates and I said, it doesn't matter what the real cause of this is. Bush is going to bomb Iraq.
So you were on it that day, huh?
Right. And I'm like, dear God, I hope I'm wrong. But Bush, I mean, he's already obsessed with them because that was
Well, they had been
dad's failure.
talking about it. I guess
Right.
was it the Project for a New American Century?
Something like that.
It was, there were all these sort of white papers out there
I
about
mean,
the
I
plan
was
for it.
young and 3 days away from being a father, so I don't remember all of that, but I
Oh,
do
wow.
remember that moment. Because again, I've never wanted to be wrong more in my life than, and still I look back nostalgically on those years, and not just because I had a small child that was kind of fun sometimes. I have grandchildren now, so I mean, they're more fun.
Hmm.
I don't have to look forward to. Um, yeah, see, we just start in media res sometimes here. Uh, what goes into, I mean, how do you follow the news? How much of a full-time job is like researching versus just drawing the cartoon? Talk me through the process. I had Matt Bors on, but he was pitching more Justice Warriors. So this is my first opportunity to really talk to a political cartoonist. As much as I love comics, etc., talk me through the process.
Oh, yeah. Well, Matt. Yeah,
How,
I've known Matt
yeah,
for about 20 years now. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, so the process, there is more work, I think, goes into each comic than it looks like, at least in the
I
end.
would imagine.
Um, because well, for one thing, I mean, I guess it starts with consuming the news and social media, and I guess I think probably the best outlets these days for national news would be The Guardian and ProPublica. Those are
Yeah.
uh probably my go-to sources these days. And then, I guess I'm on Blue Sky and Mastodon, and so I see what people are sharing on there. And and then I guess ideally, like if the process goes according to plan, I'm writing down some ideas in a notebook throughout the week. And, you know, things are a little weird now because of the election. Like, I feel
Right.
like I have to be a little more reactive in real time, or at least, just respond to that week's news, as opposed to like normally with the strip. I like to discuss a range of topics, not just headline news. And so, but anyway, so the process would be like I write down a few topics that really, I don't know, that really pique my interest. And
Resonate.
yes, and I guess so. My deadline is like first thing Tuesday morning.
Okay.
So as I head into the weekend,
And you do
ideally,
one a week right now?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Ideally, I have some idea of what I'm going to talk about the next week. Sometimes I don't, and but anyway, at some point, I go with some topic, and I actually I brainstorm by writing out little I call them my bubble sheets, where I just spew a bunch of ideas onto a piece of paper in little bubbles that are connected in no linear fashion. Like I
Okay.
find taking the that approach frees me up from trying to think in four panels in a very organized, because that's like too terrifying, like to just start writing four panels most of the time, unless you have one of those rare weeks where it all comes to you at once, and then it's easy to write four panels.
Right.
So so then there's the process of kind of picking out which brainstormed ideas like I want to use in the strip, which gags or putting them into order and putting that narrowed selection of ideas into four panels is the next step. And that's the part that's really tricky because you know it's all like I always start with too much, and then it's like about winnowing it down and making it really simple.
Mhm.
And just that simplification process takes me a long time. Because I mean, when you're doing a wordy multi-panel strip, you want to keep the pacing uh, so that people can get through it and not feel overburdened. And so I'm constantly putting myself in the reader's shoes and trying to make things as clear and simple as possible. And that's a lot of work. Um, so then the drawing part is kind of the easy part. And depending on how complicated particular week's subject matter is, it
Right.
can be a very, simple strip. In that case, it doesn't take quite as long. But then if I have backgrounds or I'm drawing something really complicated, like an Amish buggy, which I drew like a couple weeks ago,
Yeah, I was
horses
just looking at that one.
horses are like my least favorite thing to draw. Like horse legs. I will never enjoy drawing horse legs.
I think I've come across like two artists ever that say they like drawing horses.
Well, I mean, I guess there's like girls, there are like horse girls who get really into horses and then they draw, they
Right.
kind of grow up drawing horses. So maybe if you're
Right.
like a horse person, it's fun.
I've
But
I've even known some artists that apparently, I mean, and I see in word, well, I don't see in words. I think in words, not pictures. I can't, my
Mhm.
wife's the artist. Um so I can't even imagine, but I'm told that horse anatomy and proportion is just uniquely hard, particularly if you want to start having them move at all.
Oh my God, no way.
Right. I mean, I've talked to a few people who've even done fantastic like Western work, when Elsa Chartier and Tom King had Love Everlasting, and there were a couple of issues that were like Western romance comics, and Elsa was very proud of them, and she did fantastic. And she wasn't willing to say that she liked drawing horses.
Uh, I like that you've actually talked to other people on this subject. I mean, it's an important
It seems
topic.
to be, I mean, I haven't done it like on purpose. It just seems to be
Okay.
one of those that comes up from time to time.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Dog legs
because
are tricky too. They're not as bad
yeah,
as horse legs, but like
I
dog
think
legs can be.
I think what a lot of it is and I'm not enough of a horse person, but my daughter's a huge horse person. And explained it to me once when I was wondering why so many cartoonists didn't like drawing horses, and she's like, "Well, the legs move in opposite directions, something like that. So it's like you have to remember how the front legs and the back legs don't behave the same, and you got to know the
They do. I
difference."
mean, they like curl around and they have
Right,
like seven joints in each leg. And I mean, it's crazy.
right. So yeah, this is like I said in the email, I go all over the place. And you got me on a Friday, so
Okay.
I've had students all week. I'm flipping through cartoons of yours, because that's another thing that I do, and I came across, uh, and I remember when this one came out, and it's fantastic. But on August 21st of this year, two things. First, you went 9 panels rather than four. And second, you seem to have inserted yourself talking to Donald Trump. How do you make that sort of decision? How do you make, because and the follow-up question is going to be, how did you settle on the 4 panel political comic? Because I mean, historically, political cartoonists have been 1 panel. It's really only in the last couple of decades that I've noticed more political cartoonists doing multiple panels. You, Ruben Bowling, Tom Tomorrow. I'm certain I could come up with more, but it's Friday. Um, yeah.
Right. So it's funny you mentioned that particular cartoon because I'll tell you a secret. That was a rerun that
Okay.
I initially drew in 2016 in Philadelphia when I was there for the Democratic National Convention. And um, I ran it again this past summer because I was on vacation and I had COVID. Um,
But those are both good reasons.
my vacation was mostly ruined by COVID. So anyway, I was like, this comic from 2016 is so relevant. I mean, I hardly have to change anything. And I think I
Yeah.
did edit, like there was a couple, there's a statistic in there that I had to look up and update slightly. Uh, and but I
Traffic
ran it
deaths
because
change,
I did. Yes, I think it was the traffic deaths.
or is it
Um,
the air pollution and the premature? I think those are the
you
two
know,
statistics that
I
we
might
have
have.
here.
I think I took a look at both of those, and I can't remember
Right,
specifically what I edited. It was one or both of those that got edited. Um,
right.
I guess, and in the last panel, one thing I wish I'd edited is I had Trump calling them undocumented immigrants, which is not what he would actually say. He would not use any
No.
polite term like that. Is that after I
Well, I mean,
post
he
that,
might have in 2016.
well, maybe, yeah.
Well, I mean, depending on the day in 2016, right? I
Right,
didn't say
right.
he always would in 2016, but it was less inconceivable that
It's
he
true.
would
No, the
use it.
rhetoric has only gotten worse, if you can imagine. Um,
Well, I mean, it's what happens when you take a spoiled brat and give him no consequences.
yeah, no, there's with both Trump and I would say the insurrectionist members of Congress, you
Yeah.
had no consequences.
Oh
But I
God.
guess I want to
I,
get back
I'm
to
still infuriated that there weren't members of Congress indicted.
we'll get to that. Before I forget your
No
questions,
problem. Right.
so you were asking about putting myself in a comic and um and then the 4 panel structure. So yeah, I have been putting myself into my comics even a little more this year. Uh, I don't really, I don't know. I started out doing autobio comics actually back in the 90s before I was even a
Okay.
political cartoonist. And so I kind of,
Okay.
but they were semi-autobiographical. I used a character. It was kind of a stand-in for me. And then I moved away from that. And I guess at a certain point, in recent years, it's just become occasionally useful when maybe like I mean, I use like made up characters a lot, just like
Right.
random people, but
Hmm.
sometimes it just feels more appropriate to draw myself and I guess when I did that strip, for whatever reason, I that's how I felt that day. And
Right.
and then I did another strip earlier this year that was just straight up like it was like an autobio strip about traveling to Washington, D.C. and having just seeing a bunch of homeless people in DC. And then the very next night, I was like having to spend the night on an airport floor, which is, a luxury compared to being homeless. But like,
Yeah.
it was like so unpleasant and uncomfortable. And yet I still had access to like food and restrooms. And I was like, this sucks. And this is nothing compared to sleeping on the sidewalk every night. So anyway, that was another comic where I drew myself, and I just kind of felt like that was like I don't know. I almost tossed off isn't the word, but like I was like, oh, this is a little different. I'm just going to do this slightly different idea that I have, and people really liked it. So I think since then maybe I've been a little more willing to put myself in the comic again. At least I think there's been at least one or two since then.
Okay.
But in terms of the panels, I think the 4 panel structure, going back to I guess when I started the strip in the late 90s, I think late 98, early 99 is when I started doing the strip, and it wasn't political yet. It was more like surrealist humor. And I think at that point I was very influenced by like Life in Hell. I
Okay.
guess Tom Tomorrow, some of the weekly strips that they tended to be, if not 4 panels, a multi-panel format.
Right.
And then I guess I just drawing 4 squares in a square. There's something that just seemed very tidy about that, and that's how I started doing it for whatever reason. Probably because it was a little easier to measure. I hate drawing straight lines. So I don't know.
Do you
Maybe
use a
that.
ruler or do you do it by hand?
Um, well, yeah. I mean, for years,
And actually, then follow up. Do you work digitally or traditionally?
yeah. Well, now I work digitally. I guess I drew it on. It was just ink on paper until I think it was like 2019 that I finally. Um, I've been looking into switching to digital for a while, and I didn't find anything good enough. Like everything just looked like it had been drawn digitally, and then I finally got an iPad Pro with the Apple Pencil, and
Okay.
that and then I was able to do what I needed to do in InDesign, although I still bring it into Photoshop to do a few other things.
Right.
But yeah, so I draw now. I just draw it on the iPad, and I made a font uh, a few years ago. Around that time, I also made a font, so I didn't have to do the hand
Okay.
lettering. But now I find ways. It seemed faster at first, but now I find new ways to waste time and and take forever drawing it.
Well, I just, I mean, it's probably at least easier to make straight lines.
Oh yeah, so that I use a template for I just so I don't have to do it every week. I
Right.
just pop a an imperfect template. I think you know, I think there's still, well, the lines are straight, but I think it's, if you measured it out, the panels wouldn't be, quite all the same. But then
That's
it gets
allowed.
it gets shrunken down, and
It's allowed.
but it is allowed. It's true.
Yeah. Um, so and I'm feeling very scattered. So if I get too scattered, tell me and I'll try to like make the flow more logical.
No,
Not
that's
in a
fine.
logical mood.
We're all scattered here.
I'm
That's
I'm
fine.
often very logical, but I'm not in that mood. I'm gonna go tell me about you and comics and cartooning to begin with. Like I mean, what I'll often tell me is like, take me from your first comic book or your first comic strip that you had to read every day and whatnot, and what what made you fall in love with the medium? What made you decide this is what I want to do? Anything that you feel like is, relevant in that.
Sure. So, okay, in the beginning, so I grew up in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, kind of a rural area, and I didn't have any brothers or sisters, so I was one of those kids that had to, make their own fun, and so I I guess I started drawing at a very early age, and my parents were pretty generous about buying me comic books. I guess I started out reading a lot of the like Carl Barks,
Oh, I
Donald Duck
love Carl
comic.
Barks.
He was so good.
I have the old school hardcover like annotated Carl Barks
Hmm.
right over there
Oh, uh,
in the living room.
so he
And
was
and
a huge influence, I think,
the
and
good duck artist.
a good duck artist, yes. And the wit. I mean, there was
Oh
some
yeah.
very clever. Um,
Oh, one of the I mean, I grew up on DuckTales, but I also kind of grew up on Barks just because
mhm,
my uncle Andy in particular is a huge Carl Barks fan, so he's got some of the prints that Barks did late in his career to actually make some money,
mhm,
and
mhm,
he had those same. I've poured over those books long before I was bothering to read any of them, because he had them, and I just flip them out and start looking through them. So, I was familiar with that stuff forever. And it wasn't until the Fantagraphics books when I started like reading them as they came out that I went, oh, like every great storyline in DuckTales came out of a Carl Barks comic from 50 years earlier.
hmm. Interesting.
They just recycled them.
Yep. Yep. Um, so so in addition to Barks, I guess I read a lot of Mad Magazine, and I guess Jack Davis,
Also, yeah,
uh, and I mean, like everyone my age. I mean, I grew up reading Peanuts,
yep.
and The Far Side and Calvin and Hobbes were probably
Yeah.
close seconds there. And
For me, Calvin was my top,
mhm.
but Farside and Peanuts were close.
Well, I mean, I guess Peanuts was maybe a little more inconsistent at that point than I mean, the thing is, I went back and read a bunch of the early Peanuts books. Like it was during the last election cycle. That was sort of my comfort food, like reading
Okay.
early Peanuts. And boy, they were just so like thoughtful and
Hmm.
sometimes very dark. And I don't know. I think I picked
He
up
was
on.
sometimes unexpectedly political too. There's like a week of cartoons from the 80s where Snoopy is having to go nuts to get licenses and whatnot, and the punchline at the end is he wants to buy like an assault rifle, and they're like, "Oh no, you don't need anything for that."
Oh, I don't think I've seen that one.
And
Wow.
I'm like, wow, was Charles Schultz ahead of the curve on this one?
Way ahead. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you could get that published in a daily newspaper now.
Yeah.
But anyway, so so basically when I was in high school, I guess, I mean, I drew comics constantly to amuse myself, as a kid. And then I guess
Right.
in high school I started drawing illustrations for my school newspaper. And I remember drawing some caricatures of people from my high school yearbook. And it was just one of those things that, like, I don't know, it always kind of, drawing cartoons, it always kind of got you attention. Like if you're as a young cartoonist, that's like the one thing, the one little trick you can play. Like, people find it fun. And so I would draw, comics for my friends or little, I, I just remember I remember when Bon Jovi's "Living on a Prayer" was big. I drew like a "Living on a Bear" cartoon for one of my friends, and
Okay.
it became a thing. Anyway, uh, so when I was in college, I started doing work for college publications as well, drawing for the newspaper. I did for the humor magazine, and I guess I never thought I would do it professionally. And then a couple things happened. Like I didn't think I could make a career of it. I mean, I was just like, how would I ever make a living? And then a couple things happened. Sarah Dyer, who's publishing the Action Girl anthologies, I don't know if that rings a bell, but there were these
It
comics
doesn't.
from the 90s. It was kind of during that whole like Riot Girl period where um so she put together these books of like emerging female artists. I think Jessica Abel, I recall, was like another
Okay.
cartoonist who appeared in that. And so I started doing these comics. I mean, sort of professionally, in college, and then I got really sick of writing papers. I wrote my senior thesis on the women underground cartoonists of the 70s and 80s, particularly the Twisted Sisters. I don't know if you're familiar with and those anthologies that were edited by Diane Newman, who recently left us. Really, really great, interesting collections. I guess Aline Kominsky-Crumb was also another
Okay.
editor of those, and like Leslie Sternberg was one. There's a bunch of names that are, well, anyway, just maybe people might not be familiar with them anymore, but they were pretty
No, I know some of these.
big, yeah, in the 70s and 80s. And so I'd written my senior thesis on that anthology, and I think in the process I got really tired of writing and just wanting to draw. And this little rebellious streak kicked in, and I just kind of decided after college I wanted to draw comics. And I didn't want to go to grad school, and um, so eventually, let's see, how did I guess I put out a comic book. I met
Oh.
so I met are you familiar with alternative comics? The
I'm
publisher from.
familiar with some. As I was just looking at Twisted Sister here, I discovered that my friend Dennis published it in 1994.
Oh, Dennis Kitchen?
Kitchen.
Or
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. He's one of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
first people I met in comics, actually.
Oh,
Weirdly,
Dennis is amazing.
he was so nice. I
Yeah.
met him, I think, at the Small Press Expo in Bethesda, Maryland,
Yeah.
which is the show I went to. I mean, just almost every year for a decade. That's really where I got my start. And so I had a comic book published by Jeff Mason, who's the publisher of Alternative Comics, which is now I think it sort of defunct as a publisher. It's been defunct for a while. I mean, I think there's like a web presence now
Okay.
somewhere. But anyway, they published a lot of indie comics back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And that first comic book was very influenced by like Robert Crumb, and it's still coming from that underground comics world that I've been um, wallowing in for several years. And it was very surreal. It was very dreamy. I think I'd been reading some like Roz Chast also at the time. So I mean,
More good
it was
stuff.
more. She's one of my absolute favorites,
Yeah.
and actually one of the I have to say a great person who I've had the honor of hanging out with a few times, and it's always nice when you like meet your cartooning heroes and they turn out to be really cool. And
Yeah, I have been pleased to experience that more than once at this point.
mhm.
Yeah, it's the surreal part of having a comics podcast is that comics is like the one community that even with a limited listenership, they're like, "Oh, you're promoting comics. You're part of the club now."
Yeah.
It's like, but you're you're
Well, I mean, I certainly appreciate it. I mean, I have to say, like, it seems like the when I get podcast interviews these days, they're mostly like from it's like comics oriented, and
right,
so I mean, I appreciate it because I feel like as a political cartoonist, I mean, you are siloed a little bit
right.
from political journalism. But I don't
Yeah.
feel like I'm that different, but you look still
Which
like
is
kind of
dumb,
oh, you're a
but
cartoonist, so you're like in this other category.
yeah, yeah, go read Joe Sacco and shut up.
Right. I love Joe Sacco.
Um,
Uh, so yeah.
but I
I
get it because I'm the teacher that's always saying, "Hey, there's a comic for that." Oh, but we want to teach it. I'm like, "Yeah, that's why I'm telling you there's a comic for that."
yes, yes, exactly. So let's see, where were we? I was talking about
Alternative comics.
oh yeah. Okay, yeah. So
Jeff Mason is what I have up on screen. So that's how I keep track of where we are. I pull
yeah,
up windows as we go.
yep. Okay, so I guess after I put out that first comic book, which I actually got some positive feedback on that. I decided to start. I just turned it into like a weekly strip, or maybe it was sort of bi-weekly in the very beginning. And because I think it was just like all weeklies were big at the time, and I felt like I wanted to maybe put myself out there a little more than just like one comic book at a time. It seemed like a way to just publish a little more often, than a book. And so I just started submitting to alt weeklies, and I got picked up by this kind of a alt weekly slash humor magazine called Punchline in Richmond,
Okay.
Virginia. And that was, I think that was like 1999. And they're a little bit like the Onion, sort of like a punk rock Onion. And I that's the first place I started appearing regularly. And then what happened was basically the Bush administration happened and September 11th happened. And suddenly, like, I felt compelled to just address real world issues a little more. I mean, I'd always had a little bit of a political streak, but suddenly I couldn't. I mean, that's just what everyone was like thinking about and talking about, and doing just totally surreal cartoons no longer felt. I didn't feel a great urgency to do that. Like I felt like, the need to talk about what was happening in the world. And so around that time, I got picked up at a Funny Times, which is a cartoon and humor magazine out of Cleveland, Ohio, that still publishes me to this day. They've been great. Um, and let's see, I won a Xeric grant in there at some point to put out a collection of my early strips. So that was another boost that I had.
Right.
And again, all along, I'm still doing a lot of humor, like non-political humor writing, but certainly like more and more political as as the years go on. And then, like I said, like the Iraq War, just all this stuff just kind of plunged me into politics even further. Um, and so it just kept getting more and more political, I think, as time went on. And eventually I started getting picked up by alt weeklies and then, political publications or political magazines. Like, oh, over the years, I mean, I like more recently, like in the Nation and Politico and,
Right.
in these times. So that it was sort of a slow drift into being political, mostly
So
political.
from I mean, this makes perfect sense to me. I mean, because it's like autobio, introspective to social commentary to, oh my God, this politics stuff matters.
Mhm. Yeah, that's pretty
Um,
much it. But I
which I
will
think
say,
is a common path for thoughtful people. Um, whether
mhm.
they're cartoonists or just like the thoughtful high school kid that goes on to be an accountant, but like their reading changes through the years from more more navel gazing into to more looking at the culture around them to going, oh, politics does matter.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think
You
it's
know,
probably a good place to start when you're first drawing comics. I mean, you sort of draw what you know, and if you have some life
right.
experiences to talk about, then, there's nothing wrong with that. Uh-oh.
This is Eddie.
Hi,
Eddie
Eddie.
Eddie likes to join the podcast. He can be a brat, but he's really good with my granddaughter, so we keep him.
uh my dog would be doing that if he could, but he's I'm
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, no. Potato sometimes joins the podcast, but for whatever reason, he's camera shy. He's not
oh
shy about anything else, but it's like as soon as he's like and maybe it's because he can see himself on the screen and that just freaks him out, but like my dog, like when I'm on a Zoom call or whatnot, will sometimes sit nearby, but like will go out of his way not to get on camera. And if like you turn the camera towards him, will get all shy and like move around.
yeah, mine, he knows when I'm trying to take his picture, and he
Right.
moves away. They know they're very self-conscious somehow.
Whereas
Um,
this one's like, you're not paying attention to me. Let me get between you and the thing you're paying attention to.
yes. So, I guess we were talking about becoming more political over time, but I want to add that you know, what I really enjoy doing is social commentary that is, political in a way, because obviously, everything's political. But I I enjoy like doing comics about tech or consumer issues or cultural issues, and I really would prefer to do more of that work. And it's like this is what I kind of hate this I hate elections because because
Yeah,
I
no, I was
feel
about
like
to say, so your perfect world is that not only do things go our way on Tuesday, but that soon after that, at his new job as the fry guy at McDonald's, he forgets that he's not supposed to pick them up with his hand because apparently he managed to make it to his mid 70s thinking that people picked up hot French fries with their hands
um
and, has some sort of uh, event. I mean, I don't want anybody knocking down my door, so I won't say anything specific, but something that makes him go away. And then maybe the world will become sane enough for you to cover something that's not strictly political. That's what you're saying.
yes, that's exactly what I'm
Yes.
saying. So
That's
I mean,
that's
both
your
as
dream.
like as a citizen and a human being and as a cartoonist on every level, I'm hoping Harris wins this.
I mean,
Uh,
for me, what's become hard, um, particularly as a teacher, where we're supposed to stay apolitical, etc. Um, one side, and I'm allowed to name it now, but I'm gonna try to play the teacher game for a moment. One side has gone out of their way to make everything political because that's the way to get people not to talk about it.
exactly.
Y y
Climate
you
change,
know,
things that are not political, things are they're
right.
just facts. They're just
Or at least
evidence.
shouldn't be.
Right.
Don't need to be. There's no
Exactly.
need for them to be political. There's no need for the idea that guns and schools don't go together to be political.
Right. Uh, as I've been saying, what we have is not a polarization crisis, but an epistemological crisis. I mean,
It
it is,
is.
and it's been this slow boil where, and this is why I like to
Uh,
do a lot of cartoons about language, because
yeah,
it is through
I
language and
enjoy that.
meaning
Yeah,
that this slow shift has happened, where things are very far away, I think, from, where we were when I started out cartooning.
I should. I'm curious. I should. I now feel like I need to do some personal digging because I am willing to bet. Because I reached out to you initially, like almost 2 years ago, I think, and you were busy at that time, and I was supposed to follow up, but then got a concussion and forgot to follow up.
Yeah,
So I
I
am
hope
willing. Oh yeah, I'm
you're
doing much
okay.
much better now. Much better now.
I think I was just listening to one of your recent podcasts where you were talking about the recovery from that, and it
It's
sounded
interesting some
like it
days.
took some time.
Way too long. Um, but that's a whole different thing.
Mhm.
And thank you for listening to the podcast. But now I feel like I need to go because I'm willing to bet the bet that I'm making myself, since you just said that you like epistemological things, is that when I go back and look at it, your recent comic, When I Wrote You, is gonna have something to do with words, because that would have been, look at that. Return of the selective free speech warrior. Far right activists meddling in academics, banning history and social science. Books. Yep. Yep. This is exactly the.
Yeah, I've
But
done
then
a
the
couple of those.
conservative professor feels silenced by diversity initiatives. Now, this is an outrage.
Well, it's kind of amazing to me how the right has built up just I don't use this word lightly, but there's kind of like a hysteria about
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
speech in colleges where this reminds me before I forget, I saw like my friend Ward Sutton, who he does the comics for the Onion, and great political cartoonist. He just had a an art show, I believe it was at Purdue University, and
Okay.
he said that
It's in
because
my
of,
neck of the woods. I
oh
mean,
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of. I'm in Chicagoland. Yeah.
they couldn't show some of his political work, and I believe it was just uh involving, either like Harris or Trump or in Gaza, just, sort of basic political cartoons, because it violated some quote unquote neutrality law in
Right.
Indiana, which and I think the academic organizers were afraid to show it because of this
Right.
law. And I'm like, this is happening at a university where they can't
Yep.
like, and I mean, the stuff that's happening in Florida with DeSantis,
Yeah.
taking over the new school and throwing all these professors out of work. And I mean, to me, that combined with I think some very undemocratic crackdowns on protest, on peaceful protest, uh, is extremely chilling. And this has not been the narrative has shifted. I guess at least in sort of mainstream media, the idea just that the left is the biggest threat here, and
I mean,
there's a tremendous double
I don't
standard.
think mainstream media quite goes there, but the problem with the fact that like the far right owns their own media
Yes.
is that it pushes the middle.
Oh, exactly. And it gets
The
absorbed
mainstream
and
media, the things that they, and I know enough journalists to know that it's not even that they wouldn't have engaged with it in the past, things that they wish that they didn't have to engage with now. If they don't engage, then they play into the thing they don't want to tell you about.
right, right.
But the
Uh,
second they engage, if they don't at least give some tangible appearance of being willing to hear both sides,
mhm.
regardless of whether or not they're. I mean, look at what's happening to Ta-Nehisi Coates right now. He hasn't said that like he hasn't said anything that even comes anywhere near what should be considered anti-Semitic. But what he
Mhm.
has said is, look, segregation, and there's not any excuse for it. I'm very sympathetic. I mean, he's been clear. His book was clear. He's very sympathetic
Mhm.
for the plight of Jews, even for the plight of Israel, because whether or not Israel was the right solution 70 years ago, that's not on the people living there today.
Right.
But he
So
also said that doesn't mean that this is okay.
yeah,
But then
remind
the
me what
media,
has happened recently. I was following that and I'm not up on what's happened recently. Has he been like
I don't know that there's been anything more
right? Okay.
recently. I just it seems like every week or so some newsletter in my box will feel the need to try to split the hair to say, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking. They'll never say he's wrong.
Hmm.
Even like the most right wing don't seem to want to say he's wrong. They just try to claim that he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Right,
That
right.
it's more complex than that, and despite the fact that he hasn't claimed to know like all of the ins or out, he doesn't say that he knows how to fix it.
Hmm.
He said that there's something that needs to be fixed.
Right. My understanding is yes, he has. I mean, he has not said anything. I mean, he's basically a humanitarian, and
Right,
he's saying what all the international human rights organizations are saying, and
right.
this has been a real minefield for cartoonists, as I'm sure you're aware. I mean, I've had
Oh
to
yeah.
do several cartoons on the subject, and I obviously do not support Hamas, but I think it's undeniable now that what we have is, I mean, ethnic
Genocide.
cleansing
I'll say it.
slash
It's
genocide.
genocide.
I think it's at the
Yeah.
point now where I think you can safely call it that. And
I mean, we're still there are still people debating the 40,000 number coming out of the
right.
Palestinian Health Ministry, whereas like Lancet, which is doctors who do research, is saying, yeah, no, we also think the 40,000 number is wrong. We think it's four times that. I think it's four times
Oh,
that. We think
right.
they
Like all
found
the
40,000 bodies and that there are 120,000 that are still buried under buildings.
yes, yes, the massive number of uncounted deaths, and then the people who fell ill, who have just
Right.
have been
Um,
injured and are now dying. Yeah, I mean, this has been so. I have tried to do. I've done several cartoons on this subject. Some have been fairly harsh on Biden. I've been fortunate in that I mostly appear in progressive publications, so I think
right.
I've had a little more latitude than some of my colleagues who work for daily newspapers.
Right.
I know, I mean, some of them have, I think, gotten some pretty, awful threats and
I believe it. I
uh,
mean, I hate it, but I believe it.
yeah. So I mean, I've certainly like had my share of people arguing with me, and more recently, I find myself in this predicament where I've done some pro Harris cartoons, or cartoons that are somewhat favorable to, I mean, just in the recent weeks, just from the election. And like, I think some people read into the cartoon that I'm somehow making excuses for what's happening in Gaza. It's like, it's hard to, it's like, I can't, it's like, it's only
You,
four
you know,
panels.
I like really, I think it was even Mehdi Hassan recently said, look, am I happy with Joe Biden? No. Am I thrilled with Kamala Harris yet? No. Will either one of them be exponentially better than Donald Trump, even when it comes to Israel? Yes.
I mean, it's clear that Netanyahu is pulling out all the stops to get Trump elected. I mean, and I
I
mean, so
no, if Trump is elected, there will be, you know, what frustrates us about the Biden administration is they talk a good game, but they haven't backed it up by just stopping the
well, but
shipments.
not do it. Yes.
Right. Um, they've had a lot of feet on the ground. I tend to believe them when they say that they're arguing the good fight. I will give them the benefit of the doubt on that, and I think they've even earned it. But they haven't done, I mean, like, and I can't believe I'm like saying something good about Ronald Reagan, but they haven't done what he did and just said, look, it's our bombs. You want to keep getting our bombs? Then stop dropping them on.
I mean, this seems so obvious from the very beginning. I mean, like a year ago. And
Right.
I reached the point where I was so upset with Biden that I was feeling like it was going to be hard to vote for him. Even though, I
Yeah.
mean, certainly if I were like I mean, if I were in a swing state, I
Oh, I
guess
am so,
it would be,
so happy that and this is going to sound weird. I'm so, so happy that it's Donald Trump rather than any even mildly remotely sane Republican right now, because that's the only thing that makes it easy to vote
oh, right.
for, for,
I mean, I guess yeah,
for the people that continue to arm.
I think, yeah. So, I mean, a lot of people have made a lot of great arguments about how, voting isn't necessarily an explicit endorsement of every single
Right,
thing the candidate is doing. It's more of a strategy. And who would you rather organize under?
right.
I guess I feel like Harris has maybe squandered some opportunities where she could have been better. I don't think she's the one necessarily really calling the shots right now. I think Biden and Blinken, I
Yeah.
place a little more blame on. I would like to
Well,
think.
and where, and this is just where, like, I've I grew up in a very rich red area of a blue state
Mhm.
and now
Okay.
work in a purplish red area of that same blue state that's even
Hmm.
richer and has a large enough Jewish population that I can absolutely relate to the fact that from a strictly political perspective, Kamala probably has more to lose by saying the things that I want her to say than she has to gain by them. Um, so I don't know if I'll start judging her on it until, God willing, February 1st. If come
Right.
February
Right.
1st,
I feel like there's such a gray area there where I feel like I mean the campaign finance system is so messed up and it's so corrupt, and especially after Citizens United, where you just
yep,
these super PACs and all this dark money, and you have APAC just crushing these candidates who did make a brave stand.
yeah.
So I mean, I feel like I don't know strategically what makes sense here. I'm willing to give her a benefit of the doubt, and just that I hope that after the election is over, maybe she can do something different from Biden, and
Yeah,
that would give. I mean, and if she doesn't, then obviously people are going to have to, organize and push her in that direction. But I'd
right.
rather do that under Harris than Trump, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, I there's so much existential dread that I deal with when I think about the possibility of another Trump presidency. Because on one side, I sit back and I go, we survived one. Life went on. Democracy didn't die. And then I remind myself of two things. First, he's ridiculously incompetent. So part of the reasons we survived one was he didn't know what he was doing.
Hmm.
But part of what he didn't know what he was doing is he actually allowed people to work around him that were willing to try to stop him. Now I fear that no matter how incompetent he is, A, he doesn't have anybody around him that's willing to try to stop him. And
Hmm.
B, some of those people around him are actually competent.
Oh yes. Oh yes. And I think JD Vance being backed by Peter Thiel, and if you
Yep.
look into the philosophy of these far right Silicon Valley guys, it is
Mm-hmm.
scary. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and that hasn't received enough coverage. But it's pretty clear where they want to take the country. I mean, obviously, Project 2025 is getting some coverage, and I'm glad to see.
Finally,
Yeah.
finally. I mean, this is one of the other places that I love the comics community. As much as like the Dean Canes of the world and whatnot are like, get the politics out of comics as if, Captain America didn't punch Hitler in the face a year before we entered World War II.
Hmm.
Politics have always been in the comics. Um, is that like I knew about Project 2025 almost immediately after it was published, and because of my Blue Sky feed that is almost entirely curated towards a handful of news people and comics creators.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
You
I think
know,
I even mentioned it in a cartoon, like
right.
I want to say like over a year ago, when it was people were first starting to talk about it. Um,
Yeah.
and it was just so chilling to me then, and I
And
think
actually,
go ahead.
I have a theory on why that is that I've had people push back on, but I haven't found people who've given really great examples, which is you have to use both sides of your brain to read a comic. It's not something that can be done passively, which makes it that much harder to lie is not quite the right word because you can lie, but what you can't do is do so in a way that defies logic. It's very hard to convincingly lie in ways that you don't need to go fact check. You can sit there going, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. I mean, I can't believe the number of people who think there's fentanyl laced candy
Mhm.
because that's really how drug dealers make their money. They kill children and bring because that certainly makes police want to look the other way more. I mean, what would be the purpose of lacing candy with fentanyl? There's no
Um,
profit there. None.
yeah. So I mean, so you're
And I
saying, go ahead. That as a
well, but
that.
I think and where I was kind of going is like recently I've actually do you know Alexandra Bowman?
Mhm, yeah.
Yeah, so she's going to be on in a couple of weeks. And one of the things she turned me on to, I can't remember, but there's a Substack letter that is political cartoons, but tries to take them from both sides of the aisle. And
Oh, is it
and
counterpoint?
like, yeah, counterpoint. And like every right-wing cartoon I look at, I'm like, A, this isn't anywhere near funny. And B, it, it doesn't work as a cartoon.
Mhm.
Just looking at it objectively, it doesn't work. And I'm pretty certain that's not just because I'm liberal. I think it's because it doesn't work.
I think there was possibly a time when that premise would work in political cartooning, maybe, but I think right now we've reached an era of such disinformation where the right is just operating on a plane of pure unreality and disinformation. And I think you have to start taking apart this idea that are just two equivalent sides, at least
Oh, yeah, no,
I
there's
mean,
definitely not
like
two
you
equivalent
can't.
sides.
We need to start talking in terms of what is evidence based and what is not. And and this is of course.
What require was it you or was it somebody else that recently did a comic? It might have been Tom Tomorrow that had like the little talking head in the corner explaining everything, and then finally it was like a Harris Waltz quote at the end, and a blue hat going, "It's really nice to have a candidate that I don't have to explain."
Oh, that was yeah. No, that was mine. That was
That was yours.
last week before this past week.
Okay.
Uh, that's actually the cartoon I was saying. Like I got some flack on Instagram from I think people thought I was saying that we didn't have to make any excuses at all for Harris or the Democrats, i.e., we can just overlook what's happening in Gaza, which was definitely not the point of that
No,
cartoon. And I think,
no, I think it was, um, like a perfect example of like looking at right-wing media and how hard they have to try to make hay out of things
yes,
is
that was what
uh,
I was getting at. And also just like,
under
go ahead.
just as last week, the Biden thinks Trump's followers are garbage. Under normal circumstances, they would have just used that clip to make Biden out to be addled because he's clearly just dealing with his stutter and tired and whatnot. Nobody who watches the entire clip thinks that he's trying to say that Donald Trump's supporters are
Yeah.
garbage. He's trying to say that the moron that thought it was a good idea to call Puerto Rico a garbage island.
So like I read the quote, but I haven't actually seen the clip. And so which reminds me, I'd like to see it. And but
It
reading the literal
actually,
words that he spoke, it was clear he was having some serious issues with
yeah,
stuttering. And if you read
right,
what he was saying, he was criticizing that comic, not I
right.
mean he did not call them garbage at all.
No,
Like they didn't
no,
so
no. But the right wing media sphere like is so. I mean, the one and only thing that I will give them, I hate to use the word credit, but I will acknowledge their skill at is instantaneously managing to figure out the best way to spin something in their nefarious bullshit way because he wasn't even done talking before somebody had tweet or had texted Marco Rubio to take the podium and tell Donald Trump about it at the rally that was going on at the same time. And it's like, what the fuck?
and then
What
you know
what the actual fuck?
and it's just so perfect for just horse race coverage, like, oh, a
Right.
new gaff, a new Biden gaff. I mean, it's just like a feeding frenzy. And, it almost
I
doesn't
forget.
matter what the exact words that he
Yeah.
spoke.
I forget who took down in 2016, one of the major newsmen or like coming down the stretch towards the election day, either one of the big newspapers or I think actually like Newsweek or Time decided to do an article on how neither candidate was honest. And if you actually broke down the article, they provided five lies for each of them, or five lies for each of them. Um, And if you actually broke it down, three of Hillary's lies were of the type that are more, she said she wanted to do something and hadn't been able to accomplish it. And that's not as much a lie. It's not even really a broken promise when you think of government and how it works. It's a, this is my goal, but it didn't work out.
Hmm.
And the other two, one was from like 1997 and the other one was from like 2004. Whereas all of Trump's five lies were egregious and it happened in the three previous days.
Right, right.
It's like, I get the need to try to appear balanced, but they're not balanced.
Well, I mean, and
They're
this
not
is
balanced.
the Trojan horse through which authoritarianism is taking over everything. I mean,
Right.
I mean, as we saw with the Washington Post and the LA Times, with the billionaire owners saying, "Oh, we're just going to be neutral this election cycle," and anytime you hear like someone talking about, "Oh, we're just going to be neutral," uh, or the problem is we're just too polarized and we're not good,
Right.
those are kind of weasel words for
Right.
not take not having a moral compass as
Right.
America is about to descend into fascism.
And I mean, on one side, as I was saying before, I like, I hope that I'm being hyperbolic. I'd love to find out that I'm being hyperbolic. I'd love more not to have to find out that I'm being hyperbolic because we don't
You're
have
being
to find out at
hyperbolic at
all.
all.
No, I understand, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
I would love for it to turn out that somehow, should Donald Trump become president again, that everything's okay. And 4 years from now, we have a regular election and life continues to move on. And we still have a Department of Education and we don't have concentration camps of, they're going to call them illegal immigrants, but they think the Haitians in Ohio are legal and they're not. So I don't even know who would be in them. Um, I mean, for that matter, like, I go back to, remember Arizona passed the law that thankfully got shot down by the Supreme Court at the time, that I'm not certain would be today, about needing to prove citizenship anytime a police officer asked you for it.
Mm.
And I'm
Hmm.
sitting there going, how do they not get that Arizona was once part of Mexico? That Mexicans have huge amounts of Native American blood. Arizona also has a great Native American. So, like, there are people whose families have lived in the land that is now Arizona since before the Mayflower, who are going to have to prove their citizenship now.
Right.
Texas was once Mexico. Texas is only not Mexico because, Southern rich slave owners lied about whether or not they'd bring their slaves with them when they bought land in Texas. And then once they owned land in Texas, went, oh, how we said that stuff? Yeah, no, fuck you. And we're seceding. We're going to be a Republic of Texas because we know that'll only last until you finally go away, and then we'll become a state in the US, which is what we want. I mean, I hate how easily we'll gloss over history, particularly because, at least for me, what makes us great is that we've overall had an arc towards justice, that we had these ideas that when we put them down on paper were aspirations more than reality,
Hmm.
but that each generation after that has worked to make them more of a reality.
Well, yes, and I feel like that's kind of the world I grew up in, at least, in the, say, like the 90s. Uh, it seemed much clearer to me then that we had at least, we were making some progress on, on that arc. And
Well, and
and
I mean, the more I've become a student of history, the more I realize that like it's fits and starts. We'll go 10 steps
mhm,
forward and 3 steps back, and then 5 steps forward and then 2 steps back. So I like to hope, pray that this is one of those bubbles. And I hope it's like a 19 teens 20s bubble rather than a 1850s 60s bubble.
mhm. I um I have to say, with this Supreme Court and some of the
Oh
rulings they've
God.
already handed down, and the fact that, I mean, you definitely have at, at least a couple, if not more, justices on the Supreme Court who are sympathetic to the insurrectionists. I mean, we have Clarence Thomas and his wife, who is like involved
Yep.
in the movement, and then obviously Alito has shown some very troubling signs uh, of sympathy for the idea that the election was stolen. And so, and then you have Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, who legally assisted Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election. And so this freaks me out. I will, no bones about it. I feel like coming back from, any sort of Trump, I am having a lot of difficulty seeing how we would come back from a
No,
second
I am
Trump
too.
term.
I mean,
Where
honestly, if I'm being like brutally honest and we're getting into group therapy, which it seems like we are, so we'll just roll with it. Um, if we win in a blue wave on Tuesday, the work is still just beginning.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, the future
I
is
mean, the
terrifying, even if
single,
we win. But
yeah, the the
that's
the
I'm
the
just
single,
looking.
right, but the
I'm
single biggest thing that I am frustrated didn't get more news coverage.
Mhm,
I mean, everybody's frustrated that Biden's done a ton and not gotten coverage for it. But
mhm.
but what everybody like discounts is Trump actually did a pretty damn good job of dismantling the government. There were how many empty positions at the State Department at the end of Trump's term? There were how many empty positions at the Department of Agriculture at the end of Trump's term? There were how many? So, like, Biden has accomplished what Biden accomplished while having to restaff an entire government. I
That's
mean,
true.
think
That's
about
true.
that.
And it seems like I think that the best things he's done has been, his administration has done all these regulatory uh, things that there's a concept, the submerged state, that is all the good things that the government is doing that just like no one, it just doesn't get talked about, or it doesn't get reported because it's all the sort of workaday stuff of good government.
Right.
And actually, that reminds me of a great series I just watched on Netflix. Adam Conover's The G Word.
Oh,
Have
I
you?
love Adam Conover.
I've just gotten into him over the last year because he started popping up on my Instagram. Um,
Yeah.
but he did this series. It's like a 6-part series, just trying to explain, all the inner workings of government, and I found it educational. I mean, there was like a lot of stuff in there like I didn't even know about it. Uh, People fly into
Michael Lewis
hurricanes
wrote,
to predict
yeah,
the weather. People are literally flying into hurricanes all the time.
right.
You know,
No,
uh,
Michael Lewis actually wrote a really good book on the inner workings of the government too, that it also terrified me because it framed it around the 2016 transition and like discovering how unseriously Trump took transition
mhm,
was
mhm.
really, really disturbing. Um, but I almost wish that it hadn't framed it around that because it was a great book on just the things that the so-called deep state, which I'm sorry, deep state is just nonpartisan experts making less money than they could in private practice because they have a sense of duty and therefore are working for the government to do good for everybody. That's what they
Exactly.
call the deep state.
Yes, it's simply.
They're scientists and postal workers and park rangers.
I mean, so many public service minded people who are they're experts in their field and they are motivated by public service. And I mean, I mean, I've even done cartoons on this idea of dismantling the administrative state, as you know, Steve Bannon likes to put it. And like, well, I mean, you're talking about like dismantling everything.
Right. Do you like roads? I do.
Right.
I mean, this is another one that I hate that they managed to get away with, and we didn't find a way to push back on it. As much as they try to hang defunding the police on Democrats, and as much as we absolutely need to rethink the way we fund the police and the way
Mhm.
we envision policing, the only people who've ever defunded police are the Republicans. Well, those
Right.
who
With it.
actually done it. They just do it as part of defunding everything.
Right. With the tax cuts. Right. That we can't
I
afford.
mean, I mean, Elon Musk is talking about cutting $2 trillion from the budget. Do you know what the budget was last year?
Mhm.
$1.7 trillion. So in Elon Musk's world, somehow we're going to cut from the budget more than we spend discretion. So that's
Wow.
getting rid of all departments, including the Department of Defense, to get to
Okay.
$1.7
I'd heard
trillion
him say that, but
dollars.
I did not
Or
I
to
did
get to
not
$2
realize
trillion
what that number
dollars.
meant. Yes.
Yeah, no. I mean, or it means that they're going to cut seriously into non-discretionary funding, which is, Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, for me, speaking for myself,
I mean, those are the options.
I have to mention, like, I mean, the fact that I was able to get on the Affordable Care Act and get health insurance through that is what has allowed me to continue being a cartoonist for the past decade or more. I mean,
Right,
I cannot emphasize enough how important that was for me because I was having huge issues with health insurance and I mean, like both my husband and I are reasonably healthy, but like if you have any pre-existing conditions at
right.
all, and my
Well,
husband could not.
and at a certain age of like 40,
Everyone has.
just
Yes,
having been alive for 39 years is
exactly.
considered a pre-existing condition.
And I mean, we're talking, just minor, even minor things like my husband in Virginia could not get health insurance because he had an occurred case of plantar fasciitis from running. So like because he was exercising and was healthy, he got
Right,
denied health, and there was
right.
only one option where we were at the time, and so that was very stressful. Like he had to go without health insurance for a while. We actually wound up moving, and then thanks to the ACA, I've had pretty good coverage, for I mean, obviously, like, yes, like the deductible's kind of high, but I'm not going to go bankrupt. Like,
Right.
at least
But this
I
is also
have
where I go.
decent coverage.
I mean, I cannot explain enough that they love to try to say that, like, we have the most bloated healthcare costs in the world. And you know why I know that we have bloated healthcare costs? Because other companies don't have record profits in involved in their healthcare costs.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's really impossible for us not to have higher healthcare costs because it's all privatized. When it comes to something like healthcare that you can't choose not to get,
Right.
that's where capitalism falls apart. I can't decide that I don't need my medicine.
Right. I mean,
I
they are trying
can't
to have it both ways.
decide
Yeah.
that I broke my arm and I'm just going to do without it.
Right. It's not like there's a market where you get to choose. It's like, I
Right.
need my arm fixed.
Well, but more importantly, like even even in terms of there being a market, part of any other market is you can choose not to.
Right, right. I mean,
There's a
that's what I
certain
meant.
price where it's not even that
Right.
things are, it's not even that you're going to look for a lower price. It's like, oh, nobody's low enough. I guess I'll, this is actually the argument that I use all the time about people that get upset about college kids pirating music or comics or whatever. I'm sitting there going, option B is they stop being into music and comics. And when they have money to spend again, they spend it on something else. You're not losing sales right now.
Hmm.
They don't have money to spend.
Right. So,
this, this yeah, I'm sorry. I'm
no, no,
just
no. I completely agree. And I mean, speaking for myself, this is one thing, along with simply being a political cartoonist under a fascist administration, that is, kind of, I mean, I'm deeply worried about, and this would
I
definitely
mean, that
affect me.
that's where I'm happy that I only have 30 listeners. Worry about the fact that one of them is current, or no, oh, he's not one of the. Worry about the fact that one of my guests is now the Democratic nominee for governor of Montana. So, if they start like just doing random Google searches, I could come up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, I had him on. Uh, I have been way too close to three different mass shooting events at this point. Um, so after the Highland Park one, which is the most recent one that I was way too close to, um, dedicated a few episodes to kind of working through it. And
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Bussey wrote a book called Gunfight because he was once a executive at like a high end gun company, not the mass produce, the quality produce. But as he watched the industry change, he wound up leaving the gun industry and heading up policy for Giffords, the
Okay.
group that
Uh-huh.
got
Yeah, yeah.
and now he's running for governor of Montana as
Hmm.
a Democrat. So got my fingers crossed for him because Greg Gianforte is the one that, punched
Oh,
a journalist and still managed to get elected like a week later, which
yeah.
like,
Yeah, I remember.
what the fuck?
Uh, and that's another thing that is very concerning. It's that these norms have been just pushed and pushed and stretched to such
Well, I mean,
extremes where things, yeah, I
by
mean,
by a select group, because let's be honest. I don't know how much of I mean, obviously for your job, you have to be to a certain extent, but I don't know how much of a serious court watcher you are. But do you
mhm.
think there's any chance that they hand down the immunity decision if they thought there was even a scintilla of a possibility that Joe Biden would take advantage of it?
No, no way.
The Supreme Court counted on the fact that Joe Biden is a good man.
Hmm. Absolutely.
They counted on the fact that he's a good president. If he was any of the things that their party accuses him to be of being, Donald Trump wouldn't be alive right now because according to the Supreme Court, it's an official act.
Well, yeah, I mean, well, I mean, I suspect that, uh, I mean, I really am hoping that this election does not turn into something that goes to the Supreme Court and
Oh my God.
involves some,
I really don't need the Supreme Court choosing deciding two elections in my lifetime.
oh my God. Oh,
They did pretty badly the last
no,
time.
and that's something I think a lot of people now don't, it's sort of fallen into the memory hole a little bit. But that, I mean, that was appalling. And
And it
anyway,
really shouldn't because, wasn't it Kavanaugh that was leading
who's part of
the
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 legal
khaki
team,
mafia
the Brooks Brothers
down in
riot.
Florida,
Yep,
right?
yep. I mean, and that boy, that was right at the beginning of my political cartooning career, and and
Yeah.
this would be oh, it's I just I so what you're saying about Biden, like I kind of feel like there's a point where he's gonna have to put his foot down if like I mean I just if the Supreme Court just tries to overthrow the election, I mean he's going to have to do something, but I'm not really counting on him to like because we haven't really seen a record of him, you know, taking really bold stands like that or violating
Yeah.
any
Un,
norms. But there is a point where
un,
you might need to like think a little
consider
outside the
it.
box. I don't know. I don't know what that would be, but
I
I'm
mean,
just saying like,
I have said that what I would love to see him do as the first outside the box
mhm.
is I think he should spend Tuesday in Atlanta personally handing out food and water to people waiting in line.
Hmm, that would be smart. Yeah. I guess oh no,
Because they
wait.
made the law against it.
Oh right, right. They made the law against it. Yes. No, no, no. It's coming
Georgia
back to
to
me
hand
now. In
out,
fact,
yeah.
I even
Well,
drew
because
a
they did
cartoon
that
about
so
that once.
soon after the last election that it's been lost.
Right.
Georgia was the state that moved really fast. As much as Trump continues to like lambaste them for how could you dare not give me what I wanted 4 years ago, they didn't give him what they wanted, but they really, really quickly changed the law to make it more likely that he'd get what he wanted the next time.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Honestly, so many things have happened. I did it. I remember drawing a cartoon panel about that, but like it's like so much stuff uh
I mean, it's
happens
still
every
the
day
Bannon
that like it just gets
flood the
buried under all the other stuff. And then I even forget like my own cartoons that I've drawn about it.
and you know the I think my biggest disappointment in the Democratic Party is Steve Bannon had a brilliant strategy, flood the zone with shit.
Yep.
And you know what? There is actually a counter to that. Rather than responding to any of the shit, flood the zone with good stuff.
Hmm. Hmm.
They should be on TV every moment of every day showing the good stuff that they've done.
It's true. They do not.
Calling Fox cowards for not having them on to show the good stuff. They should be. You don't have to. I mean, I know that there was a period where everybody wanted to. I still think one of the uh, greatest lines in a political speech in my generation was Michelle Obama's when they go low, we go high. But I think the biggest problem is that it got misinterpreted by too many people. It didn't mean we stand aloof. It
Hmm.
it it means that we loudly take the high ground.
Hmm.
If they're
Hmm.
going to give us the high ground, take the high ground, but do it with purpose and do it loudly. And you know, I I I get the theory that Biden was taking by trying to just return to normalcy and not talk about the previous president and whatnot. But my God, it was predictable that it wasn't going to work.
Well, I even saw, I think like there was some criticism in the New York Times the other day saying, Biden said he would unite the nation, but he failed to do so. Now, I mean, that's like a paraphrase, but it's like,
Right.
well, of course he didn't. I mean,
Yeah.
like you're blaming him for, you know, have
Well,
the
it's
have
it's
the
yeah.
country
I
thinking
mean,
he's
particularly because I mean, if there's any and really, I mean, if you want to pinpoint the point where the Republican Party sold their soul, hook, line, and sinker, you can make an argument that you can go back to Nixon, but I think it's the moment where Ronald Reagan said, "Don't ask the government to solve your problems. The government is your problem." because
Hmm.
right there is when they made it profitable for the government not to work.
Yes, and all this
From
does
that
trace
moment on, they had no motivation to make government work because a functional government wasn't good for their message.
exactly. And a lot of what's happening today does harken back to the Reagan years. I mean, you can just trace a line back to this, I mean, this ideological movement, this anti-government movement. And that was actually mentioned in the Adam Conover special. Like he
Yeah.
talks about that Reagan quote and how, I mean, then you had Rush Limbaugh. I mean, you had all, then, I mean, just years and years of this just being
Yeah.
pounded into people's heads. So that I mean, you've had 40 years of this stuff just saturating American media and just being beamed into people's homes. And I am afraid you're going to have to change the information environment. It just what we have now is not compatible with democracy, and so I think people are afraid to talk about that because it's
I mean, and where it gets interesting is I mean, I totally agree with you. Um, but then the problem is the how. How? You know?
it I'm
I
yeah
mean, I would like to see not-for-profit newspapers, but there's
yes,
no way they
one yes, I mean one clear and there's been some movement on this, but you definitely need the funding for nonprofit newspapers, and so you've had ProPublica doing a great job,
right.
and you know
You've got a lot of Substacks doing. I mean,
oh
Spencer
yeah,
Ackerman and Jonathan Katz are doing amazing work.
yes, some of the best
Spencer's
writers.
also writing Iron Man.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Spencer is writing Iron Man. His first issue was amazing. Another guest on the show. I see. I tell people that I have a comics podcast, and they ask me if I like the last Marvel movie. I'm like, no, I said comics, and then I'm like, oh, and I talk to Pulitzer Prize winners. Comics aren't just super. I'll talk to superhero people. I'm not saying that, but yeah. But I think we're both getting tired, so let's find something upbeat to talk about before we go, just
All right,
because we
sure.
should. What what's the most fun that you've had writing comics? Like what era or what topic was, I mean, even if it was, I mean, something that you were, working towards change on or whatnot, because obviously, particularly since you moved more towards social commentary and political cartooning, obviously there's always kind of the message going on. But I'm certain that there were times that were more fun than others, or topics that it's like, oh, this is really interesting. I want to write about it and I hope this changes, but the earth isn't going to shatter if it
Hmm.
doesn't.
Um, you know, I guess one thing I was just thinking about recently was uh, when I was doing graphic journalism, and uh, like I did a travel comic where I went to this little town of Whitefish, Montana by train,
Okay.
and it was just about going there from Portland, Oregon by train, and then they have this phenomenon called snow ghosts, where the trees on the mountain get covered with like ice. And anyway, it was such a magical thing to draw um, that and just interviewing people and going out in the real world and trying to convey some of the magic of that trip, like that was like a really immersive project that I enjoyed. I mean, it was like a lot of work and completely like financially untenable as something I could do. Like, it's like you don't make any money doing that. But
I mean, how
uh,
long ago was that?
that was like I think 2011,
Okay.
2010. So yeah, I lived in
Just
Portland,
because
Oregon for a year.
the graphic novel market has changed a lot in the last decade. So
Hmm.
like I
That
wouldn't
was for a
rule
newspaper. That was
out
like
the possibility that you could pitch something again if that was
like
the
I feel
direction you wanted to go.
Um, like, yeah, no, I would actually enjoy, I think, returning to graphic journalism at some point. I think everything's kind of in flux right now, and
Right,
I find it hard to do that alongside the weekly strip. Uh,
right.
I think I used to be willing to sacrifice sleep a lot more. Like I would
I'm
just
in favor of not sacrificing sleep.
pull all night. I just really kind
Yeah,
of
no,
abused myself, like a lot of
I
comics.
did that for many, many years
Yes.
as well. I'm not in favor of it.
And
I'm much
so,
happier since I stopped.
oh my God, no, no. I mean, well, I'm still kind of bad about staying up too late on deadline night, but like I'm not.
Right,
It's something I try to avoid, and
right,
so whereas I just didn't even try before. You know, I would just
right.
keep crazy hours. So, um, but anyway, I think yeah, for just pure enjoyment, like going out and like experiencing something and then drawing a comic about a real life experience with some humor too. I mean, I would want to keep things a little bit I don't know. I'd want to keep my sensibility in there and not just be
Oh,
like
absolutely.
straight like straight news report. Like I don't know. It can be a little boring if you're just like doing a very straight news story, even in graphic form. So I wouldn't.
Well, I mean, you know, I have been around various journalists all of my life because one of my best friends was an award-winning journalist in college and went on to do investigations in the Quad Cities and eventually became an editor at the Northwest Indiana Times. And then, meeting Spencer through the podcast, that sort of thing. Um, One of the things I will absolutely say is that, like, the idea that good journalism has to be
Devoid of personality.
right, devoid of personality, devoid of good writing, even devoid of bias, because one of the greatest things I ever heard. I think Mark was quoting somebody that he'd been at either a conference with or one of his teachers. He said, "There's no such thing as unbiased journalism. The
Hmm.
second you decide what to write, you've shown a bias. Second
Exactly.
you decide what news is, that
Right.
you've decided that this is worth space and that's not. That's a bias right there. So,
Absolutely.
like, the goal of great journalism is not to be unbiased, it's to be fair and for a greater purpose. This is why most newspapers have some sort of slogan, whether it's all the news that's fit to print or democracy dies in the dark. Um, because there's an inherent bias to news coverage just because of what they decide. eh, What's really important is to do everything you can to be transparent about what your bias is. Your
Hmm.
bias is you believe in democracy, you believe in equality, you believe in fairness, you believe in conservative values, whatever. As long as you're honest about what that means, it's still good journalism. Um, and it's another place where I think, you know, uh, comic journalism, even more than photojournalism, or on par with like the greatest photo writing teams, the ability to tell a story. um One of my favorite comics, just because I love to use it as an example of something that you can do really well in a comic that you can't do in other mediums, is Dirk Becker's Trashed.
Mm. Hmm.
And it's because he does, I mean, aside from just telling a cool story, with the fictionalized part and the fun part, he does two things that are hard to do together. He teaches a lot about ecology and the environment and where garbage goes and that sort of thing. And he humanizes the job of trash collector.
Mhm.
Um, and like that human aspect is what gets stripped out of so many history books or so many newspaper stories. What makes Joe Sacco's Palestine or Footnotes in Gaza or the strips he's been doing at um, the Comics Journal since the war started that are being collected next month or in December. Uh,
Mhm.
so much more powerful than so much of the journalism that we get
Mhm.
on that is that he deals with the abstract, but he also puts a very human face on it.
Exactly.
It's so much different to think of, oh, it's terrible that people are dying versus, oh, this person lost five family members or three different houses in the last, to follow the story while still giving movies are great at narrative, novels can be great at narrative, but it's so hard when you're not having to bridge the gap yourself between words and pictures to do information and narrative together. And
Right.
comics has
Right.
such a power for that.
And at their best, comics can humanize these stories, and
Right.
and they infuse them with like a soulfulness that
Right.
and I mean they're passing through like the artist, they're passing through a human
Right.
being in a way that is very intimate, and you're
Right.
seeing the world through their eyes, and yeah, I mean that is I'd say graphic journalism at its best,
Yeah.
has that power, that fairly unique power.
I mean, graphic journalism, I would say just comics in general.
And comics in general, yeah, yeah.
Comics
I
in
mean,
general.
more broadly,
Um,
yeah.
I mean, this is why I do I mean, when we started the podcast and Tyler wasn't able to join us tonight, but
Mhm.
my co-host and I, it's like, so what do we want to be? And I said, I don't want to be just superheroes, first of all. I don't want to
Mhm.
be anything at all about what comics are valuable. I don't give a shit. And I don't want to be about, oh, this is becoming a movie. I want to be about the medium of comics. I want to explore the things that you can do with comics. Because there's so many things. I mean, I'm so happy that I've finally been able to get into the head of a political cartoonist and see how that works. And I hope that you'll come back sometime. Um,
Well,
before I ask, go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say I appreciate it because and I appreciate that you seem to delve into different genres, and because I think it's tempting. I mean, I know that I'm kind of like siloed off in my own political cartoon world a lot of the
Right.
time, but I love talking with other comics creators, and so it's nice to sort of mix, you know, mingle with other comics people,
Well, I mean, we do book clubs, we do discussions. I'll talk to you off air and
okay.
maybe we'll drag you back for something interesting. I wanted to highlight one more recent cartoon before I ask my typical closing question. For September 4th, so like a month ago, 2 months ago, you did Prairie Progressives, and I
Mm.
appreciated this so much. I mean, obviously, it came out of, you know, Tim Waltz, but while I grew up in Chicagoland, um, I have family in Galena, Illinois. I have family in all around Minnesota, Duluth, Minneapolis, Grand Rapids. Um, my wife comes from South Dakota. And while sure, I know all sorts of non-progressives from those areas. I know an awful lot of progressives from those areas too, and in fact,
Mhm.
I'm related to a lot of them.
Mhm.
So like I really appreciated this comic, where you do that typical um small town diner
Yeah.
Fox News thing,
Well,
only
I mean,
nobody
I've
wants to wear a MAGA hat.
right, right. Well, thank you. And that strip seemed to resonate with a lot of people. I mean, I was pleasantly surprised because again, that's another one where I was just a little uncertain. You know, I was putting myself into the strip, and it was a little bit outside my usual wheelhouse. And I heard from so many people who were just like, "I feel seen,"
Yeah,
and even people from like Pennsylvania who I didn't even know were from Pennsylvania. Like, "Oh yeah, I grew up
right,
in southeastern PA," um,
right.
and I think that I mean we've just seen this narrative over and over again that like everyone in the middle of the country is just like a red hat wearing guy in a diner. It's like no, like I mean a lot of us grew up in small towns and like it's not like
I
you
mean,
know
honestly, I sit back and go, if there were really any billionaires that like cared about shifting American politics to the left, all they'd need to do is bring degree type jobs to smaller red states and like lots of them, because it wouldn't actually take that many people. I mean, sure, you say South Dakota is 60% Republican. Sure. All right. South Dakota has about 1 million people. So that means that it's 600,000 Republicans and 400,000 Democrats. Bring in 200,000 people and it becomes really interesting. When Trump wouldn't put the power back on in Puerto Rico, I'm sitting there going, somebody needs to just airlift these people to Wyoming, or really just split them up evenly between the swing states. You got 3.5 million people in Puerto Rico. You could strategically place them in states where you could flip 60 without them even needing to get citizenship. They're already citizens. They just have to show up and register to vote.
well it is true. I mean these electoral maps where they just show a wall of red states are so
Right.
deceptive. And then when you see the actual population maps
Right.
it's like all this land. I mean, it's like it just a
Yeah,
lot of
Trump's
empty
favorite map is
sagebrush.
the county by county one that makes it
Right,
look like there are no Democrats
right,
at all, except when you go, yeah, but see this little county here, it has more people than all of this area combined.
right, right.
So yeah, I appreciated that because I mean another I brought up Ta-Nehisi Coates earlier, and another thing that I appreciated in his book is he got invited by a teacher that was having to deal with school board issues because she was teaching one of his books in her
Mm.
class to come out. So he came out, and the school board meeting that he went to was packed with supporters. And he realized that, oh, we think of it as, but you can organize 60, you can organize a room full of progressives in these areas as easily as you can organize a room full of conservatives.
And
You
in a way,
know,
I've done comics on this too. I think that red state progressives really know what's at stake. I mean, like people living in Texas, okay? Like they know what the deal is. You don't
yeah.
get this false equivalence. I mean, people know what rights they're going to lose, what rights they've already lost. I mean, it's very clear. And so there's no need for some kind of like, I don't know, study, anthropological study from a distance, trying to understand these people and it's like no, like you don't get this kind of false equivalence in among red state progressives because
My happy dream right now, you just brought up Texas.
uh,
My happy dream right now is that like all of the battleground states stop mattering as Texas gets called for Harris, along with running on the coattails of Colin. I can't remember his last name right now.
mhm. Yeah, I mean
All right.
the fantasy of Texas turning blue has been around for a while. And the thing is, the
It's
state is,
been blue in our lifetimes.
yes, yes, it has. I mean,
And
back
I
in
mean,
the,
they love to brag about how they've got their population is increasing the most.
mhm,
And great, fantastic. You understand that almost anywhere that you have population growth, that population growth tends to make you bluer.
right, well, yeah.
Because they don't you don't have population growth because they're all moving to the panhandle. They're moving to Houston and they're moving to Dallas and they're moving to San Antonio and they're moving to Austin. And those are all blue areas because you don't live around people and not become aware that, like, oh, some of these things make a lot of sense.
Right, and that's why they're so scared, and the Republicans are so scared and trying to shut down democracy. I mean, I think it's pretty clear they're
Yeah,
worried
no, I
about
mean they could
demographics.
have taken the 2008 election and gone, "Oh, we're going to have to do something to reach out to a changing demographic." But instead, they took it as, hmm, how can we make it so voting doesn't matter?
Mhm. Right.
All right. Final question, and hopefully a fun one.
Okay. Then I think I'm gonna have to run.
Yep. No, I will too.
Okay.
Um, tell me something you love, preferably a comic, but I'm open, that not enough other people have read, viewed, experienced, and you want them to, so you have more people to talk about it with.
Oh man. Um, you know, what's popping into okay, a couple things that are popping into my mind, but the thing is both of these are actually very popular.
Doesn't matter.
Just
Nate Powell usually literally said X-Men last time because he just
okay.
gotten back into it after 20 years of not reading.
Um,
So
uh,
I have they're allowed to be popular.
so I'd say the last two. Oh, hold on. I'm okay. Sorry, I was interrupted there for just a moment.
Okay.
So I really enjoyed Kate Beaton's Ducks. I thought that was a
Oh, so good.
fantastic book, and I love Alison Bechdel. Um, I think her last book, like Fun Home, obviously, is the classic.
Right.
It's
But no,
fantastic, and
her
everyone knows
last
it.
one,
Her
Secrets of
last
Superhuman Strength, is
her
my
last
favorite of
one
hers.
spoke to me. And I
Yeah.
mean, there's just also I think also coming from rural Pennsylvania, there's like a lot of interesting
Yeah.
overlap there, and
Right.
so that it's like wow, this another person who had that experience of like I don't know, growing up in small town Pennsylvania and just drawing cartoons all the time, and I don't know, it just I and then I think her general interest in the whole existential nature of the book was
Right.
I really enjoyed that.
Well, those are a couple of fantastic choices. Jen, thank you so much for joining us. For 22 panels, we will see you after the next page.
Hey guys, this is Tyler from 22 Panels. I'm here to tell you all about our Patreon. If you enjoy this show, please consider donating to our Patreon to keep this show going. We have many different tiers, all different levels to help you decide what's right for you. Okay, so get on out there to patreon.com/22panels podcast.